Hi everyone, good morning. So I hope you are able to hear me.
Yeah, boss.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So in the last session, we talked about the completely data factory and most of the things that we completed. And there are few checkboxes or options. So those things we'll talk about at the time of interview discussions. But they are not much even important, especially the data flow. So whatever we talk, that is much more enough for interview point of view if they ask any question, but not even 5% of the questions you're going to face from the data flow. And but 100% is you're going to face SQL. Okay, so I'm sure you may not face any question. In my case, even not 1% of the questions I faced when I try to swap the companies. And even I try to get the same kind of details from the students also. They are not also they are also didn't face the interview questions from the data flow. So very limited chances we are going to have. But when you go for interview, 100% they're going to start with the SQL. Most of the people. Okay, so if you get a positive impression in the starting, carries carries for your data factory and database and so on. Okay, so let's talk about the SQL. Why we need to go for SQL? If you take any business in general, you're going to have some applications in order to run their business, like Amazon, Flipkart, or ICICI Bank, HDFC, or ATMs, net banking. Many things are there in order to run the business. All these applications are going to connect with the database because we are feeding the data with the applications. We are feeding the data here, and that data is going to store in the a database. So that particular system we can call it as a OLTP system. So this OLTP system is specifically designed for running business. This OLTP system is designed for business point of view. To run the business, we require this system. And there is a one more system, WALAP system, that is for analysis purpose. Forget about at this point of time. Okay, so I'm just going to give little more clarity about OLAP system at the time of a goal layer. When we go for medallion architecture at the time of project, we are also going to talk again. We already talked about the differences between OLTP system and OLAP system, but we'll talk about it later again. So now, if you wanted to submit any transaction, then you need to feed the data with these applications. And when the moment you submit it, it is going to connect to this particular system and it is going to feed the data into the database. Now, if you want to feed the data into the database, or if you wanted to read the data from there, then you required SQL. So SQL means structured query language. Okay, so structured query language is common for any kind of databases in the market. Okay, so there are many people are there and they follows some rules and regulations to satisfy this particular SQL. Okay, so I forgot that rule names. Okay, EF card rules or something is there. I'm not very long ago. I know about it. If I'm correct, EF card has given some rules and regulations. If any of the product wants to become as a database, then they have to follow the rules of EF card. Okay, so like that, from Microsoft, we have a SQL Server and MySQL, Oracle. Okay, so DB2, Teradata, or many databases are there. Okay, in order to say that is a RDBMS. So RDBMS means Relational Database Management System, which is used to do your business, which is used to store the data, and we can pull the data from this particular place. So there will be a relation between the tables. So because of that reason, we are calling it as a relational database management system. So all these systems are the relational database management systems or RDBMS tools or RDBMS systems. So simply, I wanted to say database because most of us are aware of database. So no one will ask you what is RDBMS or what is CF card rules. These are all completely related to database or SQL developer side. But even for that, for them also, it is not going to be asked because there are many things are updated. So there are very basics. Okay. So if you want to create a database, how we are going to create a database that we know about it. As a data engineer, 99% is you are not going to create a database, but if you have a more than 10 years of experience, there are chances to create a database. There are chances. So in my case, I did not come across anywhere to create a database, especially in the data engineering field. But prior that, when I worked as an individual contributor for one of the project, I created a database, but not for data engineering point of view. So if you have a situations to create a database, then how you're going to create a database? And if I wanted to create a table, so creation of the tables is going to be happen for data engineers. So 99% is every data engineer is going to create a delta tables. We are going to come across the delta table in the Databricks. That is very, very important. Without a delta table, you cannot imagine your Databricks. So 100% is the delta tables will be there. So what is the difference between tables and delta tables? We'll see about it. For now, we are going to talk about tables. If you understand these tables, then 90% is same of your tables is your delta table. There is a just 10% of the change you can see. So for that reason, keeping that in mind, I'm just going to take you through DDL because if you wanted to deal with the database, we have a few set of languages like DDL, data definition language, a DML, data manipulation language, a DQL, data querying language, and we have a TCL, transaction control language, and there is a one more. I forgot that. To control the access, there is a one more, but we don't need to go for that. And even we don't need to go for TCL. But the very important for us is this three is important for us. Because we are not going to control the transactions as part of our data engineering, mostly. If it is a traditional ETL systems, yes, we are also going to control this TCL. Okay, so in order to communicate with the database, what we are going to use the tool from the Microsoft is, we are going to use SQL Server Management Studio. So I have a database here. I have a database. To communicate with that, I wanted to use SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio, or I can also use Azure Data Studio. Both can be used. Most of the people, if you're having any experience with the data, then definitely there is a chances to use this SQL Server Management Studio from your side. Okay, so I'm going to take you through this with SQL Server Management Studio only. That is what I have it. We already installed the SQL Server Management Studio in your system, and make sure to install on-prem SQL Server in your system so that you can do practice without cloud service. Okay, so how we can install, if you're not aware of it, let me know. I'll share one link. Just go through that and set up installation. Now, in order to talk to this database, this is a client tool. Okay, so if you wanted to check is table existed or not, when you get some work as a data engineer to feed or to apply data ingestion, then what you have to do is you have to check is my table available in the source or not. How do you know is table available? How do you know what kind of joins that I required? You may have that in the requirement, but sometimes they may not give exactly the table names or exactly the column names. So if they give it, then you can directly go there and you can do it. But even if we have all those things, you have to cross verify with SQL Server Management Studio by connecting to your system. I wanted to do the validation of my pipeline. I wanted to do a validation of my pipeline. How can you say your pipeline is correct? You have to validate it. To validate if your data source is a database, then you have to write a SQL query for that. So SQL query you have to write and you have to cross verify. Whatever the logic that you have applied in the data pipeline. So for that logic, you have to write a SQL code. You need to cross verify saying that my pipeline is correct. So if someone comes from the testing team, the data is not matching, how can you say the data is matching? You may have a confidence from your side. At the same time, testing team also will be having their own confidence. They will say that no, data is not matching. You will say data is matching. But what is the proof? So mostly testing teams, sometimes they may not give a proof also. Okay, so because sometimes it happens, but still you can ask them, how can you say the data is not matching? If they give some proofs, then you have to check from your side. So where exactly the mistake happened, how we can fix it. So all these things is going to be happen only with the validation. So recently one of the interview question, when you go for bronze, when you go for medallion architecture, we are going to have a bronze layer. Okay, so when you go for bronze, the landing to bronze, the data is moving. How can you validate the data is all the data is moved into the bronze layer? How can you say that?
What is landing?
Validation.
What is landing? What is bronze?
When landing, the data is going to sit. Wherever the data is going to sit, that we can call it as a landing. From your original data sources, from your underlying data sources, data is sitting into the place. So that we can call it as a landing zone or raw layer or landing. It's a container. It's a one location. Like when you go for traditional systems, you will be having a staging databases. In place of that, we are having this. So just imagine this is one source and this is one target. So when data is moving from source to target, how can you say that data is correct? How can you confirm that your data, your pipeline pulled all the data from the source? Or is that matching with source and target? That you have to do with the validation. Okay, so how you can validate is depends on the source. If your source is a SQL server, then you have to write a SQL code. So for that reason, SQL is required. And we're also going to deal with metadata tables. We're also going to deal with the metadata tables like control table, connection details, log details. So all those things we can call them as metadata tables. Then you are going to use the DML operations to feed the data. You are going to deal with that particular tables. Again, SQL is required. So SQL plays key role for data engineers. Or simply I can say whoever is going to deal with the data, for all of them, SQL minimum basics are required. And we cannot avoid it. So the very first part that I'm going to talk here is data definition language. Data definition language, a DDL. So if I wanted to define the database, then I need to use this data definition language. If I wanted to define means if I wanted to create or if I wanted to alter the database or anything, then you need to go for a data definition language. So I'm going to create a database in a simple way because we are not going to create the database in general. You can use the UI or you can use the script also. Anything that you can use it. And I'm not going to take it little more complexity while creating the database. I'm just going to make it as simple as that. So just observe, once you connect your SQL server, we know already how we can connect it because we used as part of our data factory, connecting to the databases and all. Now I just connected to my on-prem SQL server. So if you expand it, I have a various databases here. I'm just going to create one new database for us. Let me take out this. I don't want to create too many databases. Okay, so I wanted to create a database with a name called testing. Anything that you can create it, it's all up to you. So to create this testing database, I can use the UI to create a database. Let's observe. Right click on it, a new database. But if you go for other places, you may not have this kind of feasibilities UI, but you can also write a create database and database name. So let's see that how we can do it at the time of Spark. In Spark, how we can create a databases, we'll see. But now let's go with the UI. I'm just giving the name of the database is testing. Let's hit OK. Now you can see, let's expand this. I have a various folders here. Important for us is tables, views, and programmability. So let's expand this table. So I'm not having anything in this place. You're not having the tables. So system tables are, some other things are there here. We don't need to worry about it. Now I wanted to create a table into this particular database. I have an empty database. The database is empty. I wanted to create a table. To create this table, so table 1, table 2, table 3, and so on. So if you wanted to create the tables, then how we are going to do is we are going to use the data definition language. So wherever you are going to have a create, alter, drop, truncate, all these four will be treated as a DDL, data definition language. So data definition language is a type of SQL language. Basically, SQL is divided into, as I said, DDL, DML, TQL, TCL, and access control also is there. I forgot the naming standard, but we require only these three we are going to see. Used to define the structure of the database. So this DDL will be used to define the structure of the database, and we can modify the objects such as tables, views, indexes, constraints, or whatever the things that you are going to create an object in the database, then we are going to use DDL. Or if you wanted to modify the object, or if you wanted to remove the object from the database, then we are going to use it. We are going to use this DDL. So database means it's a collection of objects. Everything will be object in the database. Either it is a SQL Server or Oracle or any database it is. Now there are four different options are available in the DDL. One is create, alter, drop, and truncate. So create will be used to create an object. If I wanted to create a view, I need to use the create. Or if I wanted to create the table, you need to know about how we can use this create. So I wanted to create a table. So create table, create. This syntax you need to remember, or you need to use the Google, even if you forget about the syntax, or you can use the ChatGPT also. But I recommend you to remember as much as possible, because to crack the interview, you need to know about it. At the time of working, you can depend on many things. You can get a solution from many different ways. But to attempt an interview, you need to know. Even I used to be there in my company in a panel. I used to take, we were having, we are having multiple positions for data engineering. I used to take it, but I feel I know if something happened fishy. Like I can identify, is there any person behind the scene, or I can identify is person is giving answer is one or by using ChatGPT. So we can easily find it. So when you're attempting an interview, do not depend on the ChatGPT. Depend on yourself. Give answer with your own words. If you try to give it by ChatGPT, what happens is the words, the way it is going to generate, the people can easily identify. So few keywords are enough. If I ask any question from that particular answer itself, they cannot give an answer. There are many ways are there to identify, many ways are there to capture things. So 90% of the people I'm seeing from my interview, something they're doing behind the scene. So 10% only I'm able to see the right persons. So when you go for attempt, do not use the ChatGPT. I'm sure. So people are, see, you know about the ChatGPT, I know about the ChatGPT, interviewer also know about the ChatGPT. Okay, so remember whatever is possible from your side. The way you're going to explain the answer, the way you're going to write the code, we can identify. I can identify. I have that capability. Okay, so do some practice so that you can easily crack your interviews. So create table name. And then inside this braces, I'm going to have a list of columns here. What columns I wanted to give it, because we are going to store only structured data here. 100% structured data we are going to store as part of the SQL Server database or from the database, or all the databases are going to allow you to store structured data. Now, few systems even supporting for semi-structured data, but we are going to see only structured data. Column 1 and data type. I told you when I talked about the OLTP. So OLTP system is tightly coupled with the schema, or your database is tightly coupled with the schema. If you wanted to write the data, if you wanted to write something into the databases, schema is required. You need to follow the schema rules. If I say data type is number, you have to enter the number. If I say data type is date, then you have to pass the date. So data types are important. I mean to say we don't need to know about data types, but you need to know the data types are tightly coupled with the schema. Without following the schema, you cannot feed the data into the database. But we're all come across the ADLS. Did we specify anywhere schema? We did not specify because it is not tightly coupled with the schema to feed it. But here we require. So column 1 data type constraint, column 2 data type constraint, and so on. As many columns as you want, you can specify it. Let's come little down. You can see here. We already created a database. Okay, so the command also can use, but here you can specify the paths of the storages, log storage, data storage, but I'm not doing that because we are not a database developers. So a simple customer table I'm creating. We have created this kind of table many times. Customer ID of type is integer. So int is used to store integers. A number which is not having a decimal places is going to be integer. The equivalent data type in Oracle, we have a number. Okay, so I work mostly with the SQL Server, and even my last project was data sources were Oracle sources. Okay, so I used to deal with that also, but I just read the data from the source. We are not going to create the table, but in the Delta side, we created the tables. So what problems I face that also I'm going to take you through as part of our sessions. And then customer first name is the column name varchar. So varchar 50 I have given. This is going to be used to allow the text data. To store the text data, we are going to use the varchar. And this Oracle is having varchar 2, something like that. Okay, so customer last name also is a varchar. Customer location is also varchar. And sales is a money data type. And here people can go for number 10, 2, something like that if it is an Oracle. But here I'm going to have a money data type. So the equivalent data type in this particular place, I mean to say in the Delta tables, you can go for decimal or you can go for double. Okay, so we'll see how we can create when we go for Spark tables. Now let me execute this. If you want to execute, keep in mind when you execute any queries from the SQL Server, select the code what you wanted to execute. Do not unselect and execute it. If you do that, everything will be executed from this particular window. So take what you are executing and select it and go for execute. So customer table is okay. I need to go for source, sorry, testing. So testing, basically this, how I can say, if I wanted to move from one database to other database, then you can use. So use database name. So I'm just going to do that. Let's use execute. Then you can see here it is pointing to the testing database. Now let me execute it. Just select it and execute. Now the commands completed successfully. So that means the table is created. You just observe. Just refresh this one and you can see the table name here. You can find the customer table. Now, if I wanted to alter this table, I have a few columns because sometimes your requirement may not come 100%. Okay, so there may be changes happens. Okay, so you will be having basically when you go for development, you will be having phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, something like that. In phase 1, we have to do these changes. Phase 2, you have to do this, or phase 2, something like that. They're going to plan. Your project will be planned. Okay, so in the phase 1, you just imagine they have given. So later that they're asking to do some changes for the tables. They may ask you to change within the same phase, or they may ask you to do the changes in the next phase also. It all depends on the acceptance. Whatever the case it is, if I wanted to alter the table, if I wanted to add a new column, there is a chances to add the new columns, or they may ask you to remove some columns, or they may ask you to rename the columns. For some reason, if my data source is renamed, then I have to rename in my system, in my platform. Underlying data sources, you are not going to have any control. You're going to have control in your systems. Okay, so what is your system? We'll see that. Now, just imagine if I wanted to alter the table, then we are going to use the alter. So alter is used to add a new column. Alter is used to modify the existed column structure. Then we need to go with the alter column. And drop column is used to drop the column from the existed table. So I can drop this column, or I can rename this column, or I can add a new column to this table. For all these things, we are having these three options. I'm just going to say, so I'm not writing, I'm just trying to explain what it is going to be happen. You can get this syntax from anywhere. No one will ask you how we can alter the table. This is going to for your working experience. You are going to work. Okay, so surely you are going to work. You're going to alter the table. But no one will ask in the interview. So alter table name. I wanted to add a new column here. So to add a new column, you have to use add the name of the column and the data type of the column. So I'm just adding a customer gender here. Then use the alter statement. Let me execute it. Now you can see this alter gender, customer gender is not available previously. If I refresh now, you can see customer gender is available. And now just observe the next task here. Write a SQL statement to change the size of the column. If you observe customer first name, you can see here customer first name. What is the size here? 50 is there. I wanted to make this change to change the size from 50 to 30. So that means you're trying to modify the existed column structure. If you wanted to change the existed column structure, then we are going to use the alter column. So alter table name, alter column, then name of the column, and then you can specify the data type. So that means you're trying to change the existed column structure. Just execute it. Now see here, if I refresh it, you can find there is a 30 now. Now, the next one is customer location. The customer location, we remember, we have given varchar data type. So if you wanted to change to nvarchar, then the same alter column only you're going to use it because you're trying to modify the column structure. To change the column structure, you can use the alter column. So that is going to help you to change the data type from varchar to nvarchar. If I refresh it, you can see here this is now having nvarchar. So if you wanted to remove any column from the table, you can also use the UI. You can right click on it and you can remove it. But the command wise, we are going to use the drop column to drop the column from the table. Okay, so in that case, the column will be dropped. That is, customer location is available. When I execute this customer location is going to be taken out. No customer location. Now, if I wanted to drop the entire object, then we are going to use drop. So create, we have seen. Create is to create a table or any object. Alter, we have seen, to alter the object. Now drop, the third one. So drop is used to drop the object. That object may be table, a view, index, stored procedure, anything. So dangerous operation, all these operations, people will never give the access for everyone. You will be controlled. You will be controlled with the access. So it is used to remove the database objects. You can remove table, view, index. So what there we'll see later some point of time. And I wanted to drop the table because we are trying to deal with the table now. So drop table name. So then this entire object is going to be removed. We created an object called customer. The customer is going to be removed if I execute this statement. Just observe. Now, if I go and refresh this table, so you cannot find the customer table. No customer table. Okay, so that is about the drop. Any question, guys, as of now?
Why integer data type does not contain precision and mistakes?
Which one?
Integer data type. Why not doesn't contain precision?
Integer is there, right?
INT in a customer ID.
Int means integer only.
It does not contain precision and mistakes. As
No,
like
that is going to come with the fixed size. Okay, so int comes with a fixed number of bytes. Okay, so there is a tiny int is there, small int is there, int is there. Okay, so 1 byte, 2 byte, 4 bytes, something like that we have it. So we don't need to concentrate more on the data types. Okay, just concentrate. Int will be used to store the data, store the numbers. That's all. Up to 4 bytes we can store if it is an integer. 4 bytes or 8 bytes. I'm not exactly sure about the size that you can try, but just concentrate only int. Fixed number of bytes are there, but here you can have a varying number of characters you can specify. I mean to say you can specify the size. You have a control on it. Okay. Any other question? Okay. Let's move on to the next part. That is DML. Data manipulation language.
But Bhaskar, in the
Mhm.
interview, they might ask, na, how
Which
would
one?
you handle the large text? Suppose on the landing, we got a large text of data.
Varchar max.
What is the difference between varchar and unvarchar?
Basically, if I'm correct, nvarchar can store any kind of symbols, like other language characters when you have, like
Okay.
Chinese characters, if you wanted to store, then we need to go
Yeah.
with the nvarchar. So 2 times of the storage of your varchar. Like if you have a 10 bytes or 10 in the varchar, so that becomes 2 times in the when it goes to the nvarchar.
But for the max also, there might be some limit, na?
Up to
8,000.
something, yeah, 8,000 or some sizes there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not a problem because you are not going to deal with the data. Okay, I mean to say is with database you are not going to deal,
No,
but we
no,
are
but
going to read it.
yeah, but on the ingestion also sometimes it
No,
fails
ingestion
because
is ADLS.
now in ADLS we have a huge volume of data, and
Uh-huh.
while ingesting,
Uh-huh.
my pipeline is failing because or it is truncating the next part.
What is your target for ingestion?
Target is a SQL server.
That is what it is. If your target is ADLS, 100% there will be no issue because I don't know, some projects still they used to go, even in one of my previous project also we used SQL Server as a target. Okay, so mostly a pure data engineering project will use ADLS and Delta Lake.
Over in my organization, they are using Synapse.
So
As a-
even Synapse also, you have to specify the size.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you have to specify because they are database.
Mm.
In that case, yes, you have to give it. So the size matters. You can go with the max. But again, there is a, if you have all the columns with max, then that is also a problem. Okay, so you have
Size
to
will
identify,
increase.
yeah, size will increase, and you have to identify which column is required. For that column, you're going to keep. So once you run some times, then you can understand which column is making a problem and what we can provide the solution. You can get some idea based on multiple runs. Okay, you're able to fix that, right?
Yes, by changing the distribution type.
Okay,
There is a heap is there, na?
yeah.
Uh,
So
with
there are
heap
many are
we can,
there, yeah,
yeah,
round robin
yeah,
heap or something.
round robin
Yeah.
hash and heap. So with heap, there is no limit. If we keep max, then it will go beyond 8,000.
Okay, okay. Okay, then let's move on. Any other question, anyone?
Hi, Bhaskar. So, so this one, when we are dealing with the files, right, are we going to have this kind of comments, or it is only
No.
for the Azure SQL?
This is only if your data target is database, then you are going to have this kind of problems. But whatever I'm going to talk, this is common for everywhere. Like if you wanted to create a control table, okay, so then you need to know how we need to create it. Or someone will ask you, can you feed one, like they will give one task that is new one, a new data ingestion. So you need to feed the data into the control table. No one will come and prepare insert statement for you. Or if something you wanted to test, you need to update that particular row in the control table. So you cannot ask someone, can you write a update statement for me? You have to know about it. You got my point, right?
Ah, yes, correct.
So in that case,
Yes,
you need to know
yeah, but when
insert, you
we are
need to know
dealing with,
update. Yeah, especially
yeah,
in dev.
I agree.
And even when it is moving to the QA, then what you have to do is you have to give a insert statement to the person who is having access for the QA environment. In the same way, prod also, you have to prepare insert statement, you have to give it to them, they will execute. Because the restriction will be there in a QA and prod, and you will be having access completely on the dev. End-to-end access will be there in the dev. Okay, so we are going to see, even at the time of project explanation, we are going to come across that, but definitely you have to do it. Even in our data, I mean to say incremental loading, at that point of time, we used all this DML operations. I used it, if you remember. Okay, so if incremental loading is not yet completed, because there are few people, they are not aware of completely data factory at this point of time, but the people who already completed data factory, so they know how we can use this insert, update, and delete. But I'm talking extensively here. So insert is used to feed the data into the table. Update is going to update the data into the table, and delete is going to remove the data from the table. So in the interview, there is a chances to ask what is the difference between delete and truncate. Delete versus truncate. So I will give few of the differences. Okay, so we'll talk about it. I have given later of this section. We'll see. And now I'm just going to create again the same table because it was removed, right? If I wanted to see the data from the table, just use the select star from table name. We are going to spend much time with this particular statement. So as a data engineer, if your data source is a databases, that may be Oracle or SQL Server, any database that you're having, you need to know how we can pull the data from here. You need to know. So how we can pull is by using the select statement. We don't select the table name directly. because hundreds of tables you are going to have in the database. So in the data factory, we can create a data set by pointing to the table. If you have 100 tables, you cannot create 100 data sets. You will be having more than that. So in that case, what you have to do, you have to write a SQL code. For database, when it is pulling, even if when we have a multiple databases, we used only single connection. Okay, so depends. You have to reduce as less as possible in the form of data sets or in the form of link services. So in that case, we are going to use the query. And select is very, very important. We are going to spend the time with that. Enough time we are going to spend. Now I just wanted to feed one record into the table for all the columns. Insert into table name, and then you can provide the values. So depends on the order of the columns you are going to provide. I have a customer ID, customer name, customer location, customer gender, customer sales. If my table is having 5 columns, then I need to pass the 5 values. If my table is having 15 columns, then you have to pass the 15 values. So that is what I'm just trying to do here. Just execute it. Now, if I execute again, select star from table name, you can see there is a one record is existed. Now I wanted to alter the table. I wanted to add a new column to the existed table. When the moment
Sir,
I
one
add,
doubt, sir.
yeah.
Sir, yesterday you created one identity column, but you have not used it, sir.
No, man.
For feeding.
Wait, man. We'll see that. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Just give me some time. Okay. This table is not having identity column. So because of that reason, I'm passing values from my side. Now let me add this column. Now again, if I say select star from table name, so since that particular record was already existed, 101 was already existed, after feeding some data, if we add any new column, that column is going to get the nulls because that is a new column. So new column is going to have the null, and that is one thing. Now I wanted to feed the data for this. Now how many columns are there here? 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I'm thinking already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 columns are there. So if I wanted to execute this, then you need to pass the values for this particular table. So 6 values you have to pass. If you take out any of the column from here, it is going to fail because it is going to be on schema on read. Sorry, schema on write. You have to follow the schema. So if I take all the values, then it is going to feed it. Now if I execute select star from table name, you can see the value is there for this. Now if I wanted to avoid feeding any value for any particular column, then you can use the null. So null supports to any kind of data type. It supports for numbers, and it supports for text, and it supports for date. Okay, so any kind of data type it is going to be supported. Okay, so here I don't want to pass the value for this column, so it is just going to get the nulls. Okay, so 103 I'm providing, customer ID I'm providing, customer first name I'm providing, but last location I'm not providing, and gender I'm not providing, and then salary I'm providing, and even age also I'm not providing. So 3 column values I'm not providing, so I'm just taking null here. So that means whatever the columns you wanted to avoid feeding the values, for them we can take the null. Now just imagine if my table is having 100 columns, I wanted to feed the data only for 2 columns, then 98 times you need to type the null. That's not going to be good practice. So in that case, we need to specify the list of columns. For what columns you wanted to feed the data. I wanted to feed the data for customer ID. I wanted to feed the data for customer sales and customer name. Now you are defining your own order to feed the data into the table. Okay, so when you take these columns, whatever the order you providing, in the same order you need to pass the values in the value section. So 104 sales and name. So the table is not having in the same order. You're specifying the order. In that way, you have to pass the values. Let's execute it and see the result. Rest of the columns will be treated as a nulls. And if you wanted to feed multiple rows into the table, then you can use the list of values with comma separated. So that is what I'm just trying to do here. Just see here. So 2 rows were loaded. So we have seen how we can insert the data for all the columns and fee columns and multiple rows, how we can feed that we came across it. There is one more option also, like with select statement also, you can feed the data into the table. So I have a table called customer table here. So from the customer table, I wanted to feed into another table, to other table. So to feed the data to the other table, we are going to use a select statement with insert. So I'm just going to create one table here with the same columns. And if you see the data here from these two tables, I have a data in only one table. Other table is not having the data. So this is a customer data table. And this is a customer table. So from here to here, I need to bring it. So just observe how I'm going to write it. Just observe. So this kind of operations also we used to do it. Okay, so this is how we are going to do, like by using insert into select statement, we are going to take it. So feeding data into customer data table to customer data table from customer table. So from one table to another table, we can feed it. You have to cross verify if select statement is executable. If it is executable successfully, then you have to cross verify is the same order of the columns we are having in this insert list. So whatever the order you're having here, the same order you need to have it here. In that way, you need to prepare the select statement. So then only it is going to take it. Then only it is going to allow you to keep the data. If the order is missed, if the order is missed, then the data will be messed up. So to avoid it, it is always going to be maintained in the similar order. Now I'm just executing up to here, only select statement. It is executable. So once you feel that is executable, then you can insert this into this table. Now 6 rows are affected. So this is also one of the way to feed the data into the table. Now you have a data in this table. So this is about inserting. Mostly you are going to use only insert statement, not like this. Okay, so if you get a chance, you can look into that. Nothing is going to be happening. Any question with the insert? Okay, now let's talk about update. Update also is important. We are going to update it. If you remember, if you attended this one, like incremental loading, we updated last loaded date. Last loaded date we updated, right? So that how we have done it with the update statement only. Okay, so you're not a SQL developer, but still we cannot ask SQL developer, can you write a update statement for me? We cannot ask them. So as a data engineer, minimum basics you have to know about it. Now, if you wanted to update any record in the table, especially when we work with the control table, we are going to use extensively. Sometimes when you feed it, the column name maybe you entered wrong, or table name may be wrong you entered, or last loaded date you wanted to change for testing purpose. Then definitely you have to update your control table. So in that case, update is 100%. You, me, everyone is going to touch when you work as a Azure data engineer. So update customer data set customer age set will be used to set the value to this column equals to 100 where customer ID is 101. For 101 now I'm having null. This null is going to be treated as 100 when I execute this. Whenever you're going to update, keep in mind adding this where class. So you have to do very carefully. What you're updating, you have to keep in mind. So otherwise it is very dangerous. So because of that reason, they don't give the access to your UAT or I mean to say testing environment or prod environment. So they're always going to take the day-to-day backup of the control table. Even we used to take an everyday backup of control metadata database, because even in the dev, because we don't know someone is going to make some changes, right? Unfortunately, they don't do intentionally. Sometimes we're all human beings. Sometimes it happens. So because of that reason, we always used to take the backup on every day, the metadata database. So it's very small data. Okay. So max to max, you're going to have 1,000 records. Okay. So nothing more than that, max to max. So taking backup of 1,000 records database is just very small activity. So I wanted to update only for specific record. In that case, we're going to use the where class. Let's execute it. Now you can see one row is affected. If I say select star from table name, you can see there is 100. Now I wanted to update multiple columns. Here I updated single column. If I wanted to update multiple columns for single row, then you have to specify column with comma separator. So customer is for 102, I'm just taking 102 is having age is 30 here. Now this is going to become as a 36 when I execute this. And customer sales, what is the customer sales? 1,000 is there. This 1,000 is going to become as 5,000 when I execute this statement. Only for 102 it is going to execute. Let's execute it. Now 2 rows are affected. We just cross verify. You have to validate it. You have to cross verify is there 5,000 or not. Is there 36 or not? And update a single column for multiple rows without condition. This is very dangerous. Very dangerous. If you're doing update, delete without condition is very dangerous operation. Don't do that. Update customer data set customer age underscore null. Customer age equals to null. So all the values are going to become as a null if I execute this statement. And just select star from table name and see the result. Now you can see everything is null. This is very bad.
You will not do rollback here.
No, because you are not controlling the transaction, right? So if you wanted to control your transaction, then you need to write these commands in the begin transaction and end transaction. Now let me show you here. Like, this is also is important for sometimes they may ask about it. TCL, transaction control language. So there is a commit, rollback, and save point is also there. I'm not going to talk about that because we are not a database developers. So I'm just going to take you through these two options. Okay, so this kind of things is going to be happen sometimes in the stored procedures. Okay, so if you want to control the transactions, if you wanted to control the transactions, then you are going to use this. Especially in the traditional systems, people used to do even for data warehousing also. Like begin transaction, when I say begin transaction, the transaction is going to be started. So once the transaction is started, until unless you commit the transaction, data is not going to store in the table permanently. So what happens here is when the transaction is begin, the updates are going to be happen, or the delete is going to be happen, and that is going to keep in the RAM. The data is going to be kept in the RAM. So that will not remove the data directly from the table. Okay, so if you say roll back, then the changes will be revoked. Whatever the changes will be done, that will be revoked. And if you commit it, then it is going to be committed your transaction. Let me show you an example so that you can get better clarity about it. I just started my transaction with begin transaction. Now just observe select star from table name. I have a 101 record here. Now what I'm trying to do is this 101, I wanted to remove it. Delete from table name where customer ID is 101. Okay, so then that means what? It is going to be removed. If I execute it, just observe. If I execute this, one row is affected. If I execute again select star from table name, the data was removed from the table, but whatever the data is there in the whatever the data it was removed, it is not removed completely now. It just kept in the RAM. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure the internal activities because I'm not a database developer. So I'm just giving some brief idea about it. It is going to keep in the temp memory. And once you commit the transaction, then it is going to remove it. Let's say if I roll back my transaction, you're reverting your activities, you're undoing your activities. Now, if I say select star from table name again, you can see still your 101. Is everyone with me?
Sir,
Now,
that begin transaction that we need to select, sir.
we already executed, right? One time. Now the transaction is ended. This is starting point. This is ending point. Okay, after begin your transaction, then only can commit or you can roll back. If you don't use that, by default, it will take as a commit transaction because SQL Server supports by default commit.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
Now I'll just do one more time. This time again, you just need to start the begin transaction and then remove this record. Now this time what I'll do is, let me execute this. You have 102. Now I'm going to make commit transaction. I'm not going to roll back it. I wanted to commit it. Now that will be removed permanently. If you see select star from table name, you're not going to have it. 102 is gone because you committed the transaction. So that is the difference between rollback and commit. Rollback, revert your changes, and commit.
Now again, if we
commit the
do a
changes.
rollback again, try to roll
It
back.
was already committed. No transaction is there. No begin transaction. It was committed. Transaction ended. You committed means it is done. The transaction is done. Okay, so that is what it is saying. You cannot execute the rollback until unless you begin the transaction.
And does it support for update activities even?
Anything that you can keep.
Okay.
Anything you can keep. So I'm just taking the delete. You can take update also.
Okay.
Okay, see here. I'm just taking 0 here. But begin transaction. Update it. Now see your select star from table name. You're going to have age as 0. But I'm just going to roll back it. Then your age will be reverted. You can see. No 0. 102. No 0 is there. Okay, so rollback is comes into picture when you go for DML operations. Okay. Now delete is going to delete the data from the table. So delete is used to remove the data from the table. Now I'm just going to remove. So once I remove it, no data will be there in the table. Okay, so let me execute this. So no data is available in the customer data. All the data got removed. Somewhere I've given, yeah. So let me talk about this first. I'll come back to there. So the difference between delete and truncate. Difference between delete and truncate. So we have seen delete is used to remove the data. Okay, so if you wanted to delete the data based on the condition, then go with the delete. If you wanted to delete the data, or if you want to remove the data from the table based on the condition, then go with the delete. Okay, so if you want to delete the data without condition, then go with the truncate. So delete is used to remove the data from the table with condition or without condition also is possible. That is what we have seen. If you don't use the where, then you are not specifying the condition. But 99% we are going to use the condition. So conditional based removal, we are going to use the delete. It removes the row by row, so it degrades the performance. Just give this few differences. It removes the row by row. And we can control this transaction also. We can revert it by using rollback. Okay, so that is going to be possible. And if requirement demands to remove data based on the condition, then go and use this delete. And if table is having an identity column, then value will not set to 0. So it is not going to set to 0 if table is having the delete. Okay, so that is one more difference. And when you go for truncate, basically we are going to use this truncate when you go for full loading. Full loading means remove existed data and reload all the data. So that is what the full load. It is used to remove the data from the table without any condition. We wanted to remove all the data. When you go for full load, 100% you have to take out the existed data and you need to reload it. In that case, go with the truncate. And the truncate is going to remove all the data at one shot, so it improves the performance. Because you are not going to roll back it. You are not going to keep the data in the RAM. It's just going to remove it. And it will be used when you want to implement full loading in the ETLs. And if table is having an identity column, then value will be set to 0 automatically when you use the truncate. If you don't use the truncate, then your identity column will never set to 0. Just try, because we talked about SCD type 1 and SCD type 2 implementation. In SCD type 2, we used identity column. Just feed some data, truncate, delete the data from the table, and again insert the data into the table. You just observe what is the value of the identity column. Then use the truncate and feed the data. Then you just observe what is the value of the identity column. Any question with this? Truncate and delete. So more important for interview point of view. Now, I wanted to concentrate more and more on select. So select statement is very, very important. 90% of the time we are going to spend with the select if your data sources are databases. Not only that, we're also going to move the data from silver to gold. In that particular case, we are going to use the select statement. In order to apply the data aggregations, in order to do the joins, we can write the SQL code in the Databricks also. In the Databricks also, we can write it. So sometimes PySpark code little difficult when you compare with the SQL. Or sometimes PySpark code is very simple when compared with the SQL. So better data engineering projects and all, they're going to use mixed coding, they're going to use it. So they're going to use the Python as part of your Databricks. They're going to use the SQL also as part of our Databricks. So select statement is very, very, very important. So 90% of the time you're going to use it. Whenever you're going to read, whenever you're going to pull the data from the sources, 100% is I do recommend to use the SQL. Okay, so let's see how we are going to do it. And that is going to be very faster also. Okay, so even when you go for the Databricks, we are going to talk about it. But SQL select statement is very, very important. Keep in mind. So in order to talk that, I'm just going to use these two tables. I wanted to create these two tables. If tables are existed, let me drop them. I'll talk about what is if exists at the time of Databricks. Now let's create let's create this
Oscar,
table.
one question.
Yeah, please.
Sorry to interrupt. So when you say like SQL, it will be faster. That is with respect to SQL server.
No,
in the
database.
Not with the file. Like when we are ingesting the CSV Parkway. So in that case, we need to better go for Spark.
Yes.
Do you recommend like that, or
Yes,
there also
that
we
is
can-
true. That is true.
Oh, thanks.
Because Databricks supports data warehouse also. That is what Delta Lakehouse. We used to call it as a lakehouse.
No, I didn't get you.
There is a concept called lakehouse in the
Yeah.
Databricks. So they're extensively supporting for data warehouse. DDL is available in the Databricks also.
Okay, this kind of operation.
Like your Synapse database is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the
Yeah.
same way.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm just creating this employee table with the different columns and different data types. We can see here higher date is having the date column, and these two columns are the currency data types. And I'm just going to create it. Let's execute it. And then I wanted to feed some sample data here. I'll give the script so that we can feed the data. Now employee table is having the data. In the same way, department table also I'm just creating it and feeding some sample data. You can find many tables in the you can find many tables in the Google with the sample data if you wanted to explore yourself with a different set of data. You can do from your side also. Now I have these two tables. Employee table and department table. With these tables, I'm going to take as much as possible many things. So understanding the logic is very important. Okay, so the table may have many number of columns. It doesn't mean that if there is too many columns, too many lines of the code, or too many lines of the rows, is not going to help you to understand SQL. So 100% is every table is going to have a numbers, text data, a date, bool, all these things only. Okay, so even if you have 100 columns, you are going to have this data only. Okay, so I'm just going to have only few columns with all varieties of the data types. And department table, I'm just taking only two tables here. So taking two tables or having 100 tables is more or less same only. Okay, so understand the concept. If you understand with these two tables, then you can apply the same thing with hundreds of the tables, will be very much similar. So what I'm trying to do with this particular option, we'll talk about it. I'm just going to talk about DQL. So we need to query the data. If you go for incremental loading in Data Factory, we have written a select star from table name. When I give the table name, I have used the positional parameters. We pass the name of the table dynamically. So to understand this, then you should understand what is the select star from table name. So there I just went for only select star. You can have the list of columns also. It's all depends. Okay, so we use select statement only to read the data from the databases. If you remember IL, or if you are not completed, when I'm going to talk about the incremental loading, you can feel we are going to use the select statement only to read the data from your source systems. If source they have given in a CSV file, then that differs. If they give a direct access to the database to read, then you can use only select statement. It's all depends on the requirement. Okay, so the complete select statement, there are chances to ask in the interview, what is the complete select statement? Select statement or DQL is used to read the data from the table and tables. So how we can read from the table and how we can read the data from multiple tables, we are going to see. So I'm just taking here select from table. From which table you wanted to read, that you have to specify here. So table name you need to specify. And then in between select and from, I have a star. That star indicates everything, all columns. Star indicates all columns from the table. Or you can specify the list of columns. When I explained incremental loading, I took the star to represent all the columns. But you can specify the list of columns. Okay, so both will be possible to use it. Wherever you wanted to use, you can go for star and you can go for list of columns. So in order to do that, if I wanted to read the data from employee table for all the columns, then I'm just selecting select star from table name. So select star from table name is going to give all the data for all the columns. All the data for all columns. Now, if I wanted to read the data for any specific columns, if I wanted to read the data for this column and this column, this column, this column, something like that, you have to give the column 1 employee number, comma, employee name, comma, job, comma, salary from table name. So in that way, you're going to use that. Now just execute it. And see the data here. Only specific columns you're taking the data. You're not taking the data for all the columns. So this kind of statements also we are going to write very frequently. And there is very, very important we are going to do, that is a data filtering. So data filtering, if we completed our data factory, we talked about data filtering. With filter transformation, we have come across it. Or conditional split transformation, not exactly I'm saying, but I can compare with the filter transformation. So filter transformation is used to apply your data filtering. So the same thing, if you wanted to do with the SQL, how you can do it with where. The same thing, if I wanted to do with the Spark, then how you can do it. The people who completed Databricks, at least data frame, they can understand how you can do it. Okay, so whatever we do in SQL, try to do with the Spark. Try to do with the ADF. Then you will be perfect. So where is used to restrict the data based on the condition. I have a requirement here. The requirement here is saying write a SQL statement to read the data from employee table if the employees are working in the department number 10. So there are many departments are there. So I wanted to get the data for only department number 10. So if you wanted to get the data from department number 10, just execute up to here and see the data here. So if I wanted to get the data for department number 10, you have to specify the condition. To represent the condition, you're going to use where clause. So there is a chances to ask what is the difference between where and having. We are going to see the having. What is the difference between having and where? If it really work, then definitely you can give the answer. If it did not work, if you just take the training, then you may not give the answer. But if you follow me, definitely you can give the answer easily. Because I'm just taking you through with a job oriented, not just training. I'm just showing clearly with examples. Okay, so if I wanted to define the condition will be defined in the where class at the time of data filtering we have seen. If you remember in the data flow, with the filter transformation, we have seen how we can frame the condition, and with conditional split also we have seen how we can frame the condition. In the last session also we have come across it, and we also come across derived column transformation with, if you remember, with if statement, we have come across it. In many places we are going to define the condition in the same way. If you wanted to define the condition in SQL, how you can do it? Wherever you go, the concept is not going to change. You're going to have a column name, operator, and value. So column name is going to be decided by based on your business requirement. Operator also will be decided by based on your business requirement. Everything will be decided by your requirement. So my requirement here is department number equals to 10. That means you're going to take the column from here. You're going to take this column. If department number equals to 10, equals is the operator. Equals is the operator, comparison operator. So if department number equals to 10, that records are going to display in the output. They will come out of the filter. So that is what we have seen even in the data factory. Of course, in the Databricks also, we have come across it. And then now I wanted to write a SQL statement to read the data from employee if the employees are getting more than 2,000 salary. Now the condition is based on the salary column. Salary greater than 2,000. Salary greater than 2,000. Always condition is going to return either true or false. If it is a false, then it is not going to come. If it is a true, the record will come and display in the output. It will come out of the filter when the condition is satisfied. So these types are what types of data type it is? This two are Boolean data types. Now I'm just giving where salary greater than 2,000. So that means it is going to give greater than 2,000 salary. You just cross verify here. If you have a less number of records, you can easily validate it. In the real time, you're just going to pick some randomly few records and just validate it. You don't need to read, you don't need to validate each and every record. So here, every record, since we are having less, you can easily validate it. So it is giving 100% as expected. The next is write a SQL statement to read the data from employee if the employees are getting less than 2,000. It is more or less same. Only thing is the operator is getting changed. Less than 2,000. Now just observe. Let's execute it and validate the data. So whatever the column you're looking, all these numbers are having less than 2,000 only. So that is about how we can apply filter based on the numbers. And there is one more condition. Write a SQL statement to get employee details if the employees are working in the department number 10 or in the department number 20. If you have a single condition, is fine. We have seen how we can handle the single condition. Now, if you have a multiple conditions, then you need to join these two conditions. This is condition 1 and this is condition 2. To join these conditions, we are going to use logical operators. We are going to use logical operators. Logical OR is there, logical AND is there, logical NOT is there. So logical OR is going to check if any of this condition is satisfied. If this condition is satisfied or this condition is satisfied, then you are going to get the output. So if your business requirement demands to satisfy either one of the condition, you can feel that when the requirement comes to you, you can feel that is requirement demanding to satisfy either one condition or both conditions. So if it is asking you to satisfy either one of the condition, then you're going to use logical OR operator. Or if your business requirement demands to satisfy both of the conditions, then you're going to use logical AND operator. So that means if both conditions are satisfied, then only you can get that record into the output. And logical NOT is going to negate your condition. If condition is satisfied, then it is going to say not satisfied, means it is going to be negative operation. So logical NOT also is important. If you wanted to say excluding India data, then you have to use the NOT. Okay, so it's very important. That places you can fail when you come across the requirement. So here I'm going to take logical OR operator. So department number equals to 10 is one condition. Department number equals to 20 is the second condition. To join these two conditions, I'm using logical OR operator. So SQL is not a case sensitive. You can write in lowercase, you can write in uppercase. Whatever the case you wanted to write, you can write it. It supports. But if you do the same thing in the Databricks is 100% case sensitive. Your data factory is also case sensitive. So data factory is having a symbols also. Logical OR means two pipelines. Logical AND means two ampersands. Logical NOT means exclamatory mark. So there may be symbols, there may be characters also. But the concept is same to same. There is no change in the concept wise. The way of writing maybe differs from one tool to another tool. Let's execute it and see the result. So that is what I have given here. I'm just talking about to join the multiple conditions, we are going to use the logical operators, either logical OR operator or logical AND operator. So what logical OR is doing and what logical AND is doing, I'm just giving it. You can have a look. We already talked about it. Now, if I wanted to filter the data text, if I wanted to filter text data, how you can filter it? To represent the text data at the time of inserting the data into the table, we talked about single quotes. So whatever is there inside the single quote will be treated as a text. You can also represent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a text. This is a number in the form of text. This is a text. This is a characters in the form of text. So both are text only. Whatever is there inside the single quote will be treated as a text. Write a SQL statement to get employee details if the employee is working as a salesman or if they are working in the department number 20. So either one of them is satisfied, then we can get the data. So in this particular case, we're going to use logical OR. So job equals to salesman and department equals to 20. Let's execute it and see the result. Now just observe, write a SQL statement to get employee details if the employees are getting salary less than 2000 in the department number 30. Now how can you get it? The condition is based on the salary and condition is based on the department number. Department number equals to 30 and salary less than 2000. Now which operator we need to use? Can anyone give the answer? Which operator is suitable?
And
Is there anyone with differs? Okay, so here your requirement is demanding to satisfy both of the conditions. Then we need to use the logical AND operator. Just observe. You can see. And if I wanted to get the range of the salaries, range of the numbers, starting range, ending range. The starting range here is 2000. The ending range is 3000. If I wanted to get the range of this data, I need only this particular part of the data. I don't need this part. I don't need this part. I don't need this part. Then how you can get this one is salary greater than or equal to salary less than or equal to. So to satisfy both of the conditions, we are going to use logical AND operator here. Is everyone agree with me?
Yes, Bhaskar, we can use between also.
Yes, yes. Okay, so this is one of the way, and there is a one more option that between also you can use between 2000 and 3000. So that is also possible. Just observe. The same way I've written with between also. If between is not available, then you have to go with the operators. And how can we apply filters on the date? So date also is going to be enclosed in a single quote. And if the employees are joined in this particular so-and-so date, I wanted to look. So I can specify YY, MM, or DD format. So whatever the format you wanted to specify, that you can specify accordingly, and you can apply the filter. Now you can see there is only one employee in that particular date. Now I wanted to get the employees who signed in the year of 2023. How can you do it? Can anyone give the answer? Without year function?
Left of substring.
Not even left.
Sir, date part.
No, I don't want to get any part from the date without getting date part. You can have a range, right? You can give a date greater than or equal to 01/01/2023. Right? Logical AND date less than or equal to 31/12/2023. So you can use this, or you can use the between. Because the reason is, if you go and use this year of date equals to 2023, you can do it, but it has to apply this operation for every row. So that degrades the performance. So I'm just writing here. Let me take out this not for time being. Let's execute it. Now you can see the data, the people who are there in the year of 2023. So greater than or equal to starting day of 2023 and last day of the 2023. Okay. And you can also use the between. Between also I'm using it. So same result it is going to give. I have a 6 rows, and here also you're going to have a 6 rows. If you wanted to exclude 2023, then you're going to use the logical NOT operator. You have to use logical NOT operator. Entire thing is one condition. This entire thing is one condition. Okay, so this condition I'm saying not 2023 means this entire condition is going to represent 2023. When I say not 2023 means it is going to get excluding 2023 data. So that is what the meaning of it. Write a SQL statement to get employee details. I'm having some use cases. You try from your side. Write a SQL statement to bring the data from employee table if the employees are joined in the month of September 2023. And here I'm saying, I'm asking excluding September 2023. Just try for these two use cases. With respect to month, I'm just applying the filter. And if I wanted to filter nulls, then we cannot say commission equals to null. We cannot say that. It is not going to allow you allow you to filter, because this is equivalent to infinity. You cannot compare infinity. So in that case, we are going to use the is null. This is very, very important at the time of your working. 100% you're going to use in the data factory, you're going to use in the Databricks. So in many places, you're going to use this. So is null. How can you handle the nulls? Data cleansing operations. How can you do that? That you can do by handling this. Okay, so just have a look on it. We're going to talk about this is null operation very frequently in many places. So I wanted to get the people who are not eligible for commission. So if you wanted to get it, you have to say commission is null. Where commission is null, these employees are not eligible for commission. So if you wanted to say that people who are eligible for commission, you have to say is not null. When I say is not null, you're going to get only the salesman, you can see, because they are eligible for commission. Okay, so I'm stopping here. In the next tomorrow also we are going to have a session. So I'm going to talk about functions. That is very, very important. If you wanted to work in the data factory or in the Databricks or in the SQL, functions are important. Okay, so wherever you go, functions are there in the data factory, functions are there in the Databricks, functions are there in the SQL. If you understand any of the place, then you can work with other places. You may differ with the syntax, but the context of the function is not going to change. Let's say if I wanted to convert my all characters into uppercase, then upper function is there. Upper function is there in the ADF, upper function is there in the ADB, upper function is there in the SQL, and even in the Python also you are having it. Wherever you go, the function will be there. But way of writing may be little slight difference in the syntax point of view. But the context of the function is very, very important.
Even
Okay?
in Power BI.
Of course, even in the Power BI. That is true. So whoever is going to deal with the data, functions are important. Okay. Any questions before stopping? Are you getting any more guess? Because it is a SQL.
I was, yeah, good only. Yeah, other people can comment. Means who are interested in SQL, yeah, it will be interesting.
Yeah, I'm enjoying.
Yeah. And you mentioned data querying language, right? Can you elaborate more, or it is just an extension of select?
Select only query. You're pulling, you're extracting.
But where it is defined anyway, data querying language, or you are naming that one?
I just giving the name.
Okay.
Even this people DRL are they defined the SQL. They have given some rules and regulations, right? Like
I didn't.
SQL,
Ah.
structured query language, is divided into multiple parts. Okay, so that select statement we can call it as a DRL or DQL. So data retrieval language or data querying language. Querying or retrieval both are same.
Okay.
Only select is there.
Thanks.
Okay, so functions will be used with the update, insert, I mean to say with the DML or select. Okay, so whenever you're going to deal with the data, functions will be useful. Like DML uses the functions, select also uses the functions, not others. Okay. Anyone having any confusion with the SQL? You can feel free to ask. I may go little faster, or if anyone feel this is faster, I'm ready to go little slow. But you need to give the feedback on that, then only I can go little slow. Okay, then I feel everyone is okay with my speed.
Yeah, but
Then
the thing now we are talking about with respect to tables, or it can be a views also.
yes, of course.
So like this means earlier tradition databases and all using store procedures, indexes, or triggers. So like these kind of
No, we are not going to talk the triggers. We are not going to talk the triggers because we are not working with the database side. So no triggers will be available in the lakehouse, so we can avoid it. And indexes, we are not also going to talk about the indexes, but I'll give the context why we need to have a indexes so that you can give the answer to the interviewers. Okay, so but we are not going to see extensively from our side. Okay, views are important. Views we are going to see, and stored procedure also is important. That too only for our purpose, not for data processing purpose. I'm going to touch that. Okay.
Yeah, because that performance tuning, it is.
No. We are not going to touch that because of that reason we are coming out of it, right?
Yeah, writing a big SQL.
Yeah, we are coming out of it, and we are using data factor and Databricks.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And you mentioned Lakehouse and Databricks, right? What is that? I didn't get it.
Which one? Which one?
Concept Lakehouse and Databricks.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
So that we can understand. If I give all these things here in the starting stage, so you'll get a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
When Databricks comes, I'm going to talk about it.
Okay.
So we focus on materialized.
Materialized view also, I'm going to show you how we can do it. But again, that is not our job. But in some places, there is a chances to do that kind of activities if you have. So generally, we are a readers. Okay. So when you read the data, we don't create a materialized views in the source systems. But sometimes if your target is a data warehouse, and I mean to say database, if your reporting system is expecting some views, then you can create a views and sometimes materialized views also. For reporting point of view, there is a chances to create from our side. Okay. So I'll talk about it. What is materialized view? Because in the interview they will ask.
Yes, definitely there is.
Yeah.
Sir, while creating table, you were using varchar, no, sir. You are giving some size also.
Yes.
That we only decide, sir. Whatever we like, we can.
They will give because you're a developer. Okay, so business that means solution architects or data engineering architects comes with the what size we required for the column, what data type it is. So there will be many people like data engineering architects will be there, and modeling architects also will be there. Modeling architects. Okay, and data engineering architect. So what these people will do is they will come up with the schema, star schema or snowflake schema, whatever it is. Okay. So they have something in the main mind. They will come up with the model. For this model, how can we load the data into this model will be decided by the data engineers. This modeling will be decided by the modelers. Okay, so they will connect with the business users and they will design this model. Data engineers may not be aware of it much more, but they're much more aware of it because they have to use some Erwin or some tools are there to design this model, and they will give the model to us, and data engineering architects are going to decide how we can flow the data, how we can implement it. They will give the approach. That approach we as a data engineers we are going to implement it.
No, is data engineer design the model or not? Yes, a Power BI developer design the model.
No. That is different. Forget about the Power BI. Okay. So Power BI comes into the later. Okay. So Power BI people are there here. They will, if you have a data in the goal layer, the goal layer is going to be having the model. Okay. So if you have a Power BI developer, they will directly connect and take the data. They may not create a model. And one more thing is, in the goal layer, you cannot create a relationships. There is no relationship kind of things in the database. So to slice the data, you need to have a relationship. So reporting team will take care about it. PBA will take care about it. PBA is having a capability to make the relationship between the tables. So here, this is a logical model, not a physical modeling. Okay, so we are keeping this in mind and we are going to load the data. You got my point, right? Did you get or any doubt? Okay, so that's all for today. I'm stopping here. We'll see you on tomorrow. Thank you for joining.
So modeling is not the responsibility of
No,
it.
not our responsibility. Man, we are data engineers only. We are just implementers. If you have a 15 plus years of experience, you may get chance to, if you're interested to go for architect, you can go. In that case, you need to have a clear picture on the modeling side also.
How to become architect, sir? In my project, 3 to 4 members are architects. They have
You have
very
to
more
ask
knowledge.
them. You
And
have
they,
to you have to ask them. Even I'm not architect, so I cannot give the answer. But you need to have a modeling knowledge and business knowledge and the database knowledge.
What is a process to become architect? Because what I feel, architect person have very more
Say,
knowledge.
if you want to make them to do, if you wanted to make someone to do it, then you are an architect.
They know everything actually.
They know the process. They don't know how to implement it. You know that?
Yes,
See,
yes.
if you want to build a house, I'll give one basic example. To build a house, you're going for some architect, right? To design your plan of your house. Plan of house. Can you ask a person who is going to can you ask the constructor? Can you design the plan? They cannot give a plan. The only architects only can give the plan. Right? But they don't know how to build it. They will give a plan. So here is kitchen, here is bedroom, here is something like that. So based on the size of the plot, they're going to give it. So the plan will be executed by someone else. They don't know how to build the plan, but they know how to implement the plan. You got my point, right?
Yes.
So that is how architects are required. Even I'm planning to get update, but still I don't have that much skill set, and I'm not getting a chance also. Okay, then we'll see you tomorrow, guys. Thank you for joining.